I think it's with some trepidation I stand here seeing how Bill managed to control the technologies. But I think my vote would go to Bill for his ability to carry on despite the technology. And perhaps I shouldn't be standing here anyway, because the project I'm going to talk about is a volunteer-led project, and there were 22 volunteers that undertook the River Stour Walkover Survey. And we did approach those volunteers, but none of them wanted to put themselves forward to come. And I then asked our project manager for this project whether he would like to come. He's about to go off travelling to, completely around the world. And he's so dedicated, he said, I'm not going to give up a day to come to the conference and do that presentation, because I've got so much to do back in my day job. So I feel quite a responsibility to him and those volunteers today. You have to excuse me a little bit reading, because as I've said, it isn't my project, and I'm giving it on behalf of others. I think the Walkover Survey really sort of defined what we can do with a project. We can't undertake a landscape or a wildlife project without knowing what is there. And we trained up these 22 excellent people that went out and did these surveys across the whole of the year. I think that we've got some slides later where they're sort of going through snow, they're going through ice, they're going through nettles, they're going through all sorts, and dealing with quite an interesting range of wildlife as well. So really dedicated people, and as probably everyone in this room knows, volunteers going out there doing great stuff. And it is a real credit to them. So we trained up these 22 volunteers, and they went out and did surveys looking at the features, potential pollution points, non-native invasive plant species, the vegetations, and signs of protected species. I don't think you can do a sort of a talk on a survey without putting up an incredibly boring slide of a river catchment. But I think I left this slide in because if you look at those blue lines are the river and the tributaries. Now that middle blue line that goes sort of from north to south, that is part of the main River Stour. And the reason that is so significant, because we've had some very detailed survey of that bit of the river done. And if those of you that attended the 2012 version of this conference will remember Chris Woodley-Stewart and Steve Roddick in a canoe, and they very generously capsized at about that point to undertake the vegetation survey of the river. But slightly more seriously, on that map shows 262 kilometres of river and tributaries. That equate, I did work it out, it equates to well over 150 miles. And 245 kilometres of that 262 kilometres, so a very, very high percentage, was surveyed by those volunteers. And I think that a tremendous success, because we had to get the people there, we had to get the landowner permissions. I think that equated to around 170 landowners. Well, I know that because it's on a later slide, but really fantastic that the project could engage those landowners into what we in this room think of as important. So really pleased there. And the survey, I talked about some of the issues that the survey was looking at, but it very much added to some of the work that the Environment Agency does on a continuing basis. So a further boring slide with lots of dots on it. And this, again, I left this slide in because those 22 volunteers doing their surveys, they recorded 9,500 pieces of data, which is a tremendous task in itself. But at least you can imagine being out there and enjoying sort of looking at the river and having a bit of camaraderie with your survey partner. But then not only did they do that, they then went back into the office and recorded all that information onto a database and maps and all very, very clever things. So a really tremendous sort of a piece of work there, and a piece of work that will keep, well, hopefully keep myself and the Dedham Vale team in a job for many years to come. So just a few examples of the things that are recorded there: riffles, pools, vegetation, litter, trees, and so forth. And there, you won't see the detail, but each of those lines with a bit of text next to it points to one of those bits of detail, those 9,500 features that were recorded. And I just wanted to put that slide up because to me that really demonstrates, how detailed that survey is and how fantastic the way they've put that information onto a database. So now, I can turn on my computer and I can see, I never need to leave the office because I can see all those features in the river, and we can devise projects around that. So again, you won't be able to see the text, but we've got things recorded there like reinforced bank, poaching, sidebar, ditch, compost heap, woody debris, erosion, riffles, pools, all sorts of things. Absolutely, fantastic. And I say you can see how we can focus in on that area there. At last, the pretty slides. So why do we do it? I've already indicated that it gives us those 22 volunteers have given us that data to go and help the things that people see as important. Some of those top species, kingfishers, mayflies, otters, that people can really identify and make that link to landscape, and it gives us the sort of ammunition of how we can improve the river there. Perhaps as an AONB manager, this is my favourite slide because and perhaps I should have just put this slide up and talked to this slide because these are fantastic numbers. It says there 455 survey sections completed. I got an email about midday from the project officer saying, no, it's not 455, it's 499. You must tell them it's that. So you can see that sort of dedication coming through again. But again, just thinking about those surveys and how many were done, really fantastic. We talked about the distance and the proportion that was covered there, the 22 volunteers, and that equated to 600 volunteer days. A fantastic amount. 600 volunteer days would equate to round about 3 full-time equivalent staff, which is such a fantastic input into the well-being of the AONB. We talked about those river features recorded. They were nominated for a much lesser award, I should say, than the Bowland Award, and that has directly led to 4 river enhancement projects. These are where we've created berms and pools and riffles and fixed woody debris within the river, and really sort of tangible outputs that we can take those that fund us and those that have a lot of influence over what we do, and we can point to it and say, this is what we've done, this is a great thing because X, Y and Z, and this helps the landscape. So just a couple more. There. I can't break the technology yet, Bill, but I'm doing my best. So a couple of slides here. It's always great, isn't it, to see like a digger in action and people cutting down things. But really fantastic to see those projects being delivered. And I think that there's some bank reprofiling. And also, one of the projects I didn't mention was about creating a backwater and some still water, so the fish fry don't get sort of sloshed down the river in times of storm. We also, the person recording up there is also looking at non-native invasive plant species, and again those volunteers went out and were doing sort of a Himalayan balsam project, pulling out there, and again it allowed us to direct contractors into some of the giant hogweed and so forth. So again, those really tangible projects that from where I sit, I see as really, really important. So just a couple more points on why I think this was such a good project. And not just myself, and not just those at the Dedham Vale A&B and our advisory committees, but also the EA that funded much of this scheme, and also Essex and Suffolk Water that helped fund the scheme. They have given us funding for another 12 months of this project. And although the current project officer couldn't be delayed from his world trip, we have had the confidence to reappoint a new officer to that. And again, I think that's a real vote of confidence in the project that they have secured that money in what we know will be a very difficult 12 months. Just a couple of other things that have come out of the project: a biosecurity guide for the whole catchment, and also a local action group of landowners and those that manage the land on non-native invasive plant species. Just another slide, another boring map slide, but again, we're talking all the time about further external funded projects, and this slide just demonstrates where there is less than 30% shade on the river, and that's significant because when you get less than that, it gets more difficult for the wildlife to live in our rivers. So when a landowner comes to us and says, we want to do something positive, or if we're putting a project together, that data that I started off talking about, all that work, putting that data into a database, we can just pull that up and say, we can do a project here, here, and here. Absolutely fantastic, almost off-the-shelf projects. And I think just the last picture of those volunteers, because this is what this project was all about. There's 22 fantastic people, and I promised you a picture of them in the snow, and there on the top left is a picture of them in the snow. I didn't find any pictures of them in the Netherlands, but they did assure me that they were. But thanks very much.